Students of English 198, welcome to my session with Brian Cronin. He is here from Strategies 360, a firm out of Seattle, but with offices here in Boise. Brian is the Executive Vice President of the company. And as you know, today's topic is to look at companies that are interested in hiring students from the humanities and from English, of course. So Brian, welcome. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and why you would be interested in English majors?
Sure. Thanks, Mac. It's great to be here as well. I have a bit of a checkered past, I guess. Certainly, it's been a diverse career trajectory that I've had, and I do think that is one of the gifts of a humanities or a liberal arts degree. I've been able to make a variety of career transitions. I started actually as a high school history teacher. So I started there, but sort of segued into a career in publishing. So I worked for international publishing house, Scholastic, which does educational publishing out of New York City, and then spent some time in the nonprofit world, where I also did communications. I was the editor-in-chief of a magazine that was published in 3 languages and I guess distributed to 100 different countries, and then sort of parlayed that into work in the high-tech space. So when I moved back to Idaho in the late 1990s, I landed a contract gig with HP. And from there, I worked with a marketing agency. It was actually based in San Diego. After doing the marketing agency bit for a while, I was sort of eager to test my own entrepreneurial chops, and I did some work consulting with a database company, actually, which again then put me out on site at HP to be the editor of their largest sort of B2B e-newsletter called Technology at Work. And then that role of sort of being the content editor transitioned to more of an analyst. So we were very attuned to how content was performing.
And would you say your humanities background, your history background helped you to analyze this data?
Well, absolutely. But certainly analysis and sort of looking at the broader landscape and sort of putting things in context, I would say, yes, probably did come from my college education, particularly financially. And so at the end of my tenure in the legislature, my current boss found me, and he was looking to basically build up an office here in Idaho for Strategy 360. That's what I've been doing for the last 8.5 years, and
boy, that's probably the longest you've spent in one job. Listening to your long history, I mean, you've been all over the place, and this is something I tell my students, that they should be prepared. We know that the average, this, and they should know this too, that the average person is going to change their job multiple times. So if you go to school, yeah, if you're lucky, and if you go get an accounting degree and you think you're going to be an accountant for 50 years and then retire, that might happen, but chances are you're going to be doing something else. And variety is the pleasure of life. You do something for 10 years, you students, after 4 years at Boise State, you're going to want to go do something else. So imagine in the work world wanting to do something else. And wouldn't you say, Brian, having that basis of a humanities degree allows you to wear different hats? You can easily learn a new trade or a new something to take on a new task, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I mean, I would say in college, I learned how to learn, and that has become my most valuable asset. And it's what I look for when I hire, because, it's not to say, people sometimes say, oh, any monkey could do that job. But we can certainly train people in the art and science of public relations, for example, or marketing and creativity that gets brought to bear a lot of the time.
So really, it sounds like you are eager to hire humanities and English majors, especially since writing is so important to you. But it looks like you're kind of spelling out, hey, what you're getting with your degree at Boise State in the humanities in English is a nice foundation. And what we teach you in our business is how to rearrange the furniture and put paintings on the walls or something like that, right? But you're not going to teach them to build the foundation. They come in prepared for that. And then as they move job to job, they're just kind of rearranging the paintings and rearranging furniture, metaphorically is what I'm saying here. of course.
Yeah, and work like this certainly allows you to continue that journey of being a lifelong learner too. Like fundamental to this business of marketing, communications, branding, PR, is storytelling, and
Yeah.
ultimately people lose sight of that a lot of the time. And who's a better storyteller but people who actually read a lot of stories, right? So people who, for example, aren't really that well grounded in literature. I think the studies that have come out recently about people who read a lot of fiction tend to have a deeper capacity for empathy, for example.
Right.
Well, that is also fundamental to our business. I mean, our business is largely about relationships, right? But I think it sort of fosters that sense of creativity that is really necessary in creative disciplines like the one I work in.
Yeah. So it's just a little closing sentence or two. Any advice, for my students at this point?
Well, I think there's really some value to keeping your intellectual interests diverse. I think that's what makes you an interesting human being. And interesting human beings tend to be better at telling interesting stories. And again, that is what we do. You're asking for advice, and one of the best pieces of advice I ever to practice writing for various types of audiences and using various vehicles, because there aren't, unless you go on to work in academia,
Right.
That medium doesn't necessarily always translate perfectly into other industries. And so she said, we didn't have blogs back then, but she probably would have said, write a blog, or try and write for a weekly newspaper or something,
Mm-hmm.
and I went on to do that. I mean, when I left that job, I wrote for a paper in Miami, just to sort of further develop my writing chops. And so I would say look for opportunities to write outside of what is assigned to you in college, and there are so many, and the internet is just this massive, write in a lot of different formats and for different audiences. I think would be a good piece of advice for students.
That's great advice, right? They are going to learn their disciplines as they move through the major, but exploring things outside of that, which they'll have plenty of opportunity, like you're saying, online. People are always looking for content. So
Yep.
be open, students. There's a lot of possibility. Well, thank you, Brian. I hope you all have learned something about why this degree is going to help you get a job. Certainly in multiple areas that Mr. Cronin here has experienced, all of it, his history degree really helped. So thanks a lot this afternoon, and have a great day.
Thank you, man.